Hey everybody, welcome to Marriaging.
Hey everybody, I am Nova.
And I'm Ricky.
And we have some pretty special people to introduce you to today. It's guest week.
Guest week, and they are going to change your lives. Just by you hearing their story, your life is going to be changed. So come back in 5 seconds. Don't go anywhere.
You and me, we got this. Gonna take some practice. Superpower oneness. We are marriaging. Oh, oh.
One to twin powers activate.
We are marriaging.
We are back.
And we are introducing you to one incredible couple who's been married 7 years. Yes?
Almost 8.
Almost 8.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Vince and Katie Freeman, Pastor Vince and Katie Freeman.
From North Carolina, who made their way to San Diego and have been here pretty much their entire marriage.
Yep.
And they have a beautiful, gorgeous, breathtaking little girl.
I can't even take how cute she is. Her big eyes and just beautiful little lips. I'm like, she's so cute.
And she usually breaks my heart because she's like, no, you get away from me. but deep inside here, I know she loves me because one day, it was maybe a year ago. I don't know if you remember this, Katie, but she came to me and I was able to hold her.
And he's never letting that go.
It was a big deal. She didn't let a lot of people hold her back then. So
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. Well, you guys, thank you so much. You are our first week in this new year of 2021, and we are so excited to have you. Can you guys share with our marriaging audience, we talk about changing atmospheres, creating environments, and activating our oneness superpower. And you guys shared that, you've really gone through some things in 2020, and it made you do things differently in 2021. So could you guys share a little bit maybe about your history, and then we can move into those thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we met in college in 2010. Katie had just graduated high school early, and I was transferring to a new school nearby.
Wow.
And we met at a college party. So it was actually through a college ministry. It was like a kickoff to the beginning of the year. And a friend brought her, and a friend of mine brought me, and I saw her from across the way, and I was like, that girl is amazing. I need to get to know her.
And I was thinking the same thing. I saw him from far away. I was like, that's my type.
Yep. So
okay, hold on. So you're in a crowded party and you both catch each other's eye. What is at the same time? And you're like, whoa.
I saw her from further away,
You saw me
and I just watched her and her friend the entire time as they walked after they were partying. And I was like,
wow.
I need to talk to her. And I had that was not my style. I was not a typical guy that could just go up and strike a conversation with girls. So I knew that there was something different about her.
So how long after that first, did you guys end up talking or going out?
That night we talked, and I pulled her aside and we talked for probably 4 hours.
Yeah, it was like we had known each other for our whole lives, and we were already best friends. And so he tried to ask me out, but it was my first date. So I was like, no, I'm scared. I was like, I can't go. I have a birthday party to
pushed it off.
So I
5 times the first night, I just kept asking, please, and she was like, no. I was like, there's this great event. It's free. It's it was the next week, I think. And she just kept saying no. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And no one I ever liked me back. So I also wasn't sure if it was a romantic hangout or just as a friend. So then over the weekend, we kept texting, and then I ended up asking him out.
Yeah.
Because I felt bad.
But
as you should have.
I didn't let him pay because I didn't know if it was a date or anything.
But the first night after I left the party, I called my best friend and I said, I found the girl I'm going to marry.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yep. And then she had a dream that night that we were married.
I have chills all over. That is a beautiful story.
It was wild.
It's been easy ever since, right? Nothing, no bumps, perfection. Yeah, totally.
Cheers.
Cheers to being perfect. Oh man.
So we started dating a month after that. We got engaged, I think 2.5 years after that, and then married in 2013. And then after we'd been married for about a year, we just felt like the tug from God to kind of start a new chapter in our lives. We weren't really sure what that meant. We thought about moving to the Philippines to do ministry or missions and all these things. And eventually God just kept putting San Diego on our hearts. And we had never been to San Diego. We didn't know anything about it. And we just said, okay, we'll do this.
Wow.
And so we knew we needed to be a part of a church family. And so we just Googled churches in San Diego, and The Rock was the first thing that popped up. And immediately I was like, nope, this is too big. They're not going to care for us. We need somewhere smaller. And we ended up watching the services online, and God confirmed independently to both of us that this is where he was calling us to. 10 days before Christmas in 2014, we flew out here. We had some friends drive our stuff, and we moved here with no car, no job, and a place to stay for only 2 weeks.
So
Great story.
either that's super crazy or that's like a lot of faith. It's got to be one of those two, right?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, just like, here we go. Did you feel like it was an adventure?
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
Were you more apprehensive?
Oh, yeah.
It was really, really hard, and it was just a long season of God breaking us of every idol or anything that we relied on more than him. And so it was tough.
Yeah. I mean,
So it was an adventure, but not the type where you're like, woohoo.
yeah, we had no money. We ran out of money pretty quickly. We didn't have a job for almost 10 months, but we just kept taking the next step that God was showing us. And so definitely an adventure, one that has built our faith. And I think just continued to allow us to share about the power of obedience.
That's so awesome. I'm sure people listening to this and people who will eventually hear this are going to be so inspired by your obedience, and just the willingness to say, yeah, like we made it without relying on money. It seems like these generations now, just like we have to have everything set out in stone before we make a move. And that's so anti what our culture tells us we need to do. So it's pretty awesome, you guys, that you were that obedient. Thanks for sharing. That's going to make a huge difference for people watching.
We're both planners. We love to have everything in order, especially me. And so it's just like, are you going to put that in your control or in God's control, who can actually figure it out? And I like what you said just about the obedience too, because a lot of people ask us, like, how did you have so much faith? And it's like, it's not the faith that you start with, it's the obedience and the willingness, and like the faith builds along the way, but you have to say yes, and that's how you keep going.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. You dated for 2 years, and obviously both Christian, followers of Christ, and then you got married. To take a big step of faith like you did, and to move and to be kind of without a job, be without income, and still walking closely with the Lord, you must have started this relationship on a very solid foundation. So in those 2 years of you dating and then of your engagement, were you able to remain pure and commit your relationship to the Lord?
I would say we started off well.
Okay.
The first several notes and letters we wrote to each other had a lot of Bible verses in them. And I take full ownership of this for myself. Like, I didn't lead very well. I think we were both each other's first serious relationship. And I didn't think I had necessarily the guidance up front to properly lead well. And I made my own choices. So we didn't remain pure, I would say, in our relationship. But I think that the thing we did have was good community around us. And one thing we would do when we were dating is we would go to a couple's house that we admired their marriage. And we'd say, hey, can we cook for you and spend time with you and your family? And you would not believe the doors that would open when you offer a meal to people. And so we were basically in premarital counseling for 2 years, just going from couples that we could glean from. And that was probably the biggest thing that helped set a good foundation for our marriage.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that was kind of the way you did your premarital counseling. Did you have any official premarital counseling?
Yeah, we
We
did.
did.
But I think, to be honest, I think I got more from the years we spent with a lot of the couples than just the course that we ended up doing with some friends of ours.
Because watching people do life and participating in how they resolve conflict or just family time, how they do dinners, it was probably so much fun to learn that. I know when we go to different people's homes, you glean and you grasp from people. So that's pretty cool. That would be a pretty cool recommendation for people that are dating. Like, hey, this is how you can, get some information and apply it to your life. Just go offer to cook for them. That's cool.
Yeah. We didn't live together, so we couldn't invite people really over to our house. We both lived in college homes. And so we would just say, can we come over and offer them something? So it worked out for us.
Can I ask you guys something? Were you able to be vulnerable about where you were at in your relationship with these couples or these families or couples that you met?
With some of them, yeah.
We had
Yeah.
we had certain ones that we were a lot closer to than others,
Yeah.
which is natural in most relationships. And I think that those people knew the right questions to ask as well.
Yeah.
So they would dig deep, and it was just whether or not we wanted to open up. And I think that we did.
Yeah.
And what would be your recommendation to like a couple who's dating now and are struggling, like they're so attracted to each other they can't keep their hands off each other? Is there like a good piece of advice that you could give a couple?
Yeah. So for us, we had to have boundaries. So in the evenings, we said we're gonna go home at this certain time. Like figure out when in the evening you usually feel like you start to cross the line, and pick something like an hour before that. And then the other thing that we did, which is kind of funny, is we would like, what was it called? Like
The crafts.
make collages.
Yeah. We would just
So we would gather lots of magazines and cut out different pictures that we liked. And actually it helped us to learn more about each other too. And then we would glue them onto pages and stuff. So just keeping yourselves busy.
I think that helps. And I think too, fundamentally, like what you do comes out of who you believe you are. And there was some areas of brokenness in both of us that were not healed yet. And so, I was not acting like the son of God that I know that I am today. And so I wasn't leading out of that place. I wasn't, bringing others into that space. I was acting out of my flesh. And I had compromised a lot of areas in my life at that time. And so if you're struggling in that area, I think it starts really centrally with your identity. Like, who am I, and what does a child of God look like and act like? And then do I have people around me to jam me up and ask me, are you behaving like a son or a daughter?
Do you think you knew that about yourself then, or is this like hindsight's 2020?
No, I think I fumbled my way through it. The Lord allowed us to stay together, and that we were able to grow from that. A lot of people make mistakes with each other and they hurt each other and they don't ever reconcile. And so I'm grateful that God was patient with me and allowed me to fumble through that and still lead her and still be with her today, because not a lot of people get that opportunity.
All right, so now we're here today. It's 2020. You have a baby girl. You guys have been married for 6-7 years, almost 8 years. So what happens last year in 2020 that helped shape where we're headed in 2021?
We've been just growing in the prophetic, and so I just try to listen for God's voice. And at the beginning of last year, he told me some big things. And one of those was that we were going to be moving out in December when our lease ended, and that he was going to be providing us a house. And so throughout the year, we just were praying, and we had to let our apartment know in November. So the 3 months before October, we were fasting and praying, and it was so difficult because we did a very intensive one.
Mm-hmm.
And our roommate joined in as well. So it was really cool doing it as a household. And we just heard God say so many things, and it really prepared us for what was to come that we didn't know was to come.
Yeah, so we have some mentors that have been helping us grow just in hearing God's voice and applying that. And basically we felt like God shared with us 4 major things. One pertaining to my job, that this was going to be the last year as a young adults pastor. God shared with us who was supposed to follow after me in that space, and that I was going to get a new job in August. And then the last thing was that about us moving. And so those first 3 things happened almost in the same week. And we were like, okay, Lord, I guess this other thing that's kind of like the biggest thing is still on the horizon. And so 2020 really was a year of transition for us, where we're praying and seeking the Lord and saying everything about our lives is shifting and changing. And so how can we be in position to hear God's voice? Because that's going to be it's always the most important thing to guide your life.
Most people were hunkering down and trying to grasp to whatever they still had a hold of.
And you're like,
here you go.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So part of our story as well is that we've been here since 2014. God has asked us to move out of our living situation 4 times without telling us where we're supposed to go next. So we've ended up in some other people's homes. We've ended up in some kind of wild situations following the voice of God. And it's been kind of the Abraham calling of like, go and I'll show you where.
And we've seen so many miracles and God providing in ways that
Yeah.
we just never thought we would be able to see.
So at the end of last year, when we were like, okay, Lord, like, are we doing this again? Because at this point, we've been in our apartment for 3 years. We had a great deal, a 3-bedroom space in La Mesa, like no need really to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the call came to move again. And we're like, is it going to be like last time? Maybe this house situation is going to be resolved right in December when we move out. And we're still in it. So we we moved out on the 23rd of December, and we moved into an Airbnb, and we waited until December was over. And we said, okay, Lord, like you gave us this word about December, we're going to wait. And it didn't happen. So we said, okay, we either get an apartment or we wait and we kind of pursue this word that we feel like the Lord has spoken.
So we started looking at the apartments, and none of them were able to be toured or anything. We couldn't even speak on the phone to an actual person. And so we really felt like God was shutting those doors. And so we decided that we were going to wait and just choose to just give God time to bring us to the promise that he said,
Yeah.
and just keep staying in these Airbnbs. And he's already been providing money for us to stay in some of these places.
It's been wild. Like this is the 4th Airbnb we've been in. We stayed in a hotel for a few days, and the journey of what he's doing in us is far greater than what's going to be the result.
Yeah.
I think the result is going to be good because God is good, but we're seeing it, and just seeing the journey of what he's doing in us is building our character for what is to come.
Wow, you guys, this is such a theme in your life. What are some things that you do every day to kind of make preparation for the I don't know what's going to happen mode? Like, how do you prepare your hearts, and how does that work out in your relationship?
Man, we just got to keep seeking God. Like we're doing just morning, middle of the day, and night, and everything in between, just worshiping and talking to each other, calling our mentors and just people to encourage us, because there's been so many times we've wanted to just give up. Or, I mean, just being honest, there's been a lot of times where I've been like, God, are you even good? Do you even care about us? Because we thought we were going to have this place by the end of December, and the hotel we stayed at was super sketch and like very uncomfortable.
That was my fault.
And it's just like, just because you're entering into uncomfortable situations and things that you don't like and things aren't looking how you expected, it doesn't mean that God's not good. And that's what I've been really wrestling with. Is that he's still good even when you don't get what you wanted.
Yeah. I heard this quote from Dan Mohler, a pastor. He said, the life you live is evidence of what you believe. Mm. And when you go through a trial, obviously there are people who are going through much worse. People who've lost loved ones, people who've lost their jobs. They're literally on the streets. But when you go through something that's difficult for you, it exposes what you really believe. And so if you believe you heard something from the Lord and it doesn't happen, if your first thought is, well, God, you're not good, then you have to reverse engineer that. Do I only believe God is good when I get what I want? And he's just been pulling this stuff out of us. Just like, what do you really believe about me? Like, what do you know to be true when things don't go your direction? And to be honest, it is not fun, but I know that it is because we are his children, because he wants us to know the truth about who he is. If you say you trust God, but you've never taken risks in your life, you might not actually know how much you trust him.
Yeah, right. I think that's so good. I think a lot of people watching, they kind of live out life in fear of making any kind of decision that doesn't feel comfortable. And I think this is super encouraging to go, you know what? Look at them. Like, they love each other. In fact, this isn't tearing you apart. In fact, it's bringing you closer together. You're praying together. You're worshiping together. You obviously communication, you're high level communicators because you're communicating your way through this.
We try.
We're learning.
It's not always.
We're learning.
But that's good, because you should never stop learning the art of communication. You guys are truly living out very purposefully. So some people would say, well, why'd you move out of your place before you knew where you were going? And to them, what would you say to that person that's going, well, wait, why'd you move out? What would you say?
Yeah, we've had this conversation just about every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the truth is that we believe God spoke this word. We took this word to him in prayer. We received wise counsel about it. We took it to people we trust and said, one, this is what we think God is asking us to do. Like, what do you think? And every single person that we trusted said, do it. And so one, if you feel like God's calling you to do something that sounds crazy, it's okay to take that to people you trust and say, what do you think?
That's good.
The second thing is that we do not want to live lives that are motivated by fear. And the story I've clung to so much in this season is really Peter in the boat. Mm-hmm. And Peter left the security of what he knew. He was a fisherman. It was his trade. He did it every day. He left that security to pursue Jesus in the midst of the storm. Mm-hmm. And that could preach 1,000 different ways. But he said, Jesus, if it's you, come to me. And Jesus said, come, Peter. And we believe God has called us out of our security into the storm to go find him. And I believe that God affirms things along the way while you're in the storm, because Jesus is in the storm. It's not like Peter didn't go around the storm to get to Jesus. He went through it. And we would rather make mistakes moving closer to where we believe Jesus is calling us to than to be spectators watching and saying, man, I wish I would have done that. What would my life be like if I would have done that?
So let me ask you this. Is there one of you that's stronger in this conviction that has to motivate the other?
I think the cool thing is, in this situation, it feels a lot like Mary and Joseph, where Katie has usually received a lot of the bigger words as far as like moving to San Diego or moving out of our place, but then God will often affirm those things in me. So just like the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary and said, this is going to happen, but then Joseph got a dream about it. We've literally had that same scenario happen.
And I think in our relationship, he tends to be the stronger one, the more like mentally stable. And so I think that he does carry me a lot. I will like deliver the message that God gives, but then a lot of times I do get a lot of fear because that's just a lot of my tendencies and things that I still have to work through. But I think we have noticed that when the opposite feels weak, the other one feels stronger. Yeah. Like when we went to the hotel, he felt so awful about that decision, and I saw him go to a dark place I haven't seen him go in a long time, and I felt myself just rise to the occasion. I felt so much peace, even though it was the worst ever. And I felt like I was able to really be there for him and lift him up.
100%. We're the anchor in the wave, where one of us is feeling really anchored and the other one is splashing all around. It's like, who's going to be the anchor today?
Okay, so this is the reason why we do this show. That's exactly what we talk about when we say we want to activate your oneness superpower, right? So,
and you're shifting, creating, atmospheres and changing your environment, right? Because so Katie, you were able to change the environment in the hotel just by how you led spiritually, and you activated the oneness superpower that God's given you. That's the reason why we do marriage, because we want people to know that it is possible, no matter what you're going through, that you can come together, you can be a unit, and you can be powerful. And it's going to be really, really fun to see where you land. And we want to catch people up with your story too. So we'll have to do some kind of recap when, when the shift is completely made.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
So can I ask you this? Did God tell you exactly where you would be going, or he just said it's a move?
He told us a location. He told us how many rooms, kind of like what the backyard was going to look like, who was supposed to live in this house, what our mission was in this area that we're supposed to be living in, things like that.
Wow. And it's a God-sized dream. It's not anything that we could ever do on our own.
So what is your last minute thought? What do you want to leave this listening audience with? I
think the thing that I've learned in marriage is that the biggest thing is serving each other. You will never lose when you decide to serve each other. You can never outdo that. And especially as a husband, this is what I tell all my young guy friends. Being the husband means being the chief. And a lot of people are like, yeah, that's awesome. It's like, but you're the chief servant. You're the first one to apologize. You're the first one to try to make amends. That's what the chief really looks like. The first one to lay down your life. And if you do that, there's not a woman in the world that does not want to respond to that type of love.
Actually, we learned this from one of the marriage getaways, and it's believe the best about your spouse. And that's really something that I've needed to remember in every argument and any situation where I just feel like very stressed or something, or we're not on the same page, is like, just believe the best about him. And then it usually ends in a better result.
Yes.
By the way, if you're listening and you have that house with that yard that they're talking about, they need it. So
if God's given you a dream.
so yeah, just let us know in the comments below. Say, I have your house, and they will move in this week. We'll help you move in. I mean, we'll get people moving.
We'll bring you a meal. How
There you
about
go.
that?
Thank you guys for sharing your story. Super encouraged, inspired. I do want to ask if anybody listening wants to hear more or wants to get to, wants to pick your brains or have specific questions. Is there a place that they can reach out to two of you?
Yeah, we're not on social media right now. We're as part of the fast, but they can hit us up on social media. My handle is Vince the Visionary, and Katie's is Katie Freeman 92. That's probably the best way.
Okay, perfect. We'll send people there. That's
But they have to wait for 21 days, right?
At least 21 days.
So don't be discouraged if you don't hear from them in 21 days.
We'll get back to you.
Well, thanks you guys for being part of Marriaging, and we hope that we know that you're going to continue to marriage together, because a marriage that isn't growing is dying, and it sounds like yours is growing. Good job.
Thank you guys so much for having us. We're really honored to be here.
Yeah, amen.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you.
you.
Bless you.
Bye.
We are marriaging.